Anything else from anyone? Good. Let's move on to agenda item 3, approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay, very good. Thank you. Let's move on, Dave, to agenda item number 4.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. It's my privilege today to introduce Vaughn Hansen and Cody Englandson with the Federal Aviation Administration, who are here with a special presentation of the FAA's Master Pilot Award to Scott DeLuise, who I've had the privilege of knowing for a number of years. He's very active and engaged with the Erie Municipal Airport. So I'll turn it over to these two gentlemen to present the award to Mr. DeLuise.
Thank you. As stated, hello, my name is Vaughn Hansen, and I'm the FAA Safety Team Program Manager for Colorado and Wyoming. And I'm joined by Cody Englandson, who is the Frontline Manager for the Denver Flight Standards District Office. And as stated, we're here to present Mr. DeLuise with the Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award. I'd like to tell you guys just a little bit about the award before we present it. The Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award is the most prestigious award that the FAA gives to a certificated pilot under Part 61 of the regulations. And this award is a formal symbol of recognition for airmen who have exhibited professionalism, skill, aviation expertise for at least 50 years as active airmen. The award is an acknowledgement of the airmen's longstanding commitment to our industry and signifies the FAA's humble gratitude for the many years that they have demonstrated professionalism and safety in aviation. I'd also like to tell you a little bit about Mr. DeLuise that I learned while working on this award. Mr. DeLuise took his first flying lesson on his 16th birthday in 1967 in a Piper Cherokee 140 here in Colorado at the old Columbine Airfield. According to Mr. DeLuise and those who know him, he fell in love with flying right away, and it's been a lifelong passion. He completed his private pilot check ride in 1969 while attending Westminster College in Fulton, Missouri. He later attended CU Boulder, where he continued flying and was known for taking his dorm mates and fraternity brothers for flights regularly. He is an aircraft owner, purchasing his first airplane in 1986, and currently piloting a Cirrus SR-72, which he loves and hopes to fly around the country if he'll ever retire. Mr. DeLuise holds a private pilot certificate with single and multi-engine land airplane, as well as single-engine seaplane and an instrument rating. A little bit about this award, too, is in this country, we have approximately 720,000 registered pilots. At the height, maybe 827,000 approximately. And out of that number of pilots, less than 2% get this award. Cody, if you would.
Yeah, so like Vaughn said, my name is Cody Englandson. I'm a frontline manager at the Denver Flight Standards Office. And prior to coming here, I wanted to see what was all going on in 67. So we had the first flight. We had Doors' first album, first heart transplant, and the first ATM. So, little history lesson. I'm going to read to you what it says, and I'll flip it around here. It says that 50 years of dedicated service in aviation safety. This is from the Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration. Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award presented to Scott DeLuise. We're a little late, it's August 2024. In recognition for 50 years of exemplary aviation flight experience, distinguished professionalism, and steadfast commitment to aviation safety. And this one's signed by the Wright brothers.
Also, this is the official certificate. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Can I say a couple words? Thank you, all of you, for doing what you do for aviation. This is a really tough time for aviation, and it's hopefully with this new administration, it'll get better. But I've loved flying. I've loved working with all of you guys. I know a lot of the folks in this room, and I hope to go as long as Walt has. I mean, unbelievable that, we still can fly after all these years. And my goal is to keep my medical so I can keep flying. So thank you very much for the award. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you. It's an honor to present it to you.
You bet.
On a side note, Scott helped my family with a significant issue I won't say how many years ago, but it's wonderful and congratulations. Just thank you for being here. That's this. All right, let's go on to board member reports. And Daniel, would you like to start us off, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We just kind of go around the horn with some of the airports I represent. Obviously lots of projects that have been going and some that are done, working towards the next project. And let's start with Lyman Airways on the top of my list. They're getting ready to taxiway for next year.
Where?
Yuma.
Oh.
Shoot there. Got a new contact at Yuma for airport operations there, working with those guys. They had some questions, some airport operations questions with some new staff, so we've been helping them out there a little bit, kind of a buddy program we've got established. Let's see, Akron just wrapped up their ramp expansion project, getting ready to put out an RFP for a new terminal building, which is going to be a great addition to everybody out there in Akron. Fort Morgan, they talking to Zach Sullivan, who's kind of the interim manager there. They're looking for a new ag operator and a new airport manager as part of that, but it seems like everything's been, still going and working. I also mentioned if they have any questions or anything they need help with to reach out. They've got a great group of people out there that are going to keep that airport running just fine. But so they're still going out there. Let's see, Lamar just finishing up a taxiway project, and they've got a bunch of crack fill they're working on. A bunch of crack fill. Coming off of doing a little crack fill, I understand how big a project that is. That was a lot of pallets of crack fill when I returned their machine to them. I'm like, see, they got their PAPI certified at La Junta, talking to Luke out there. Taxiway project at Trinidad that just got finished, and they're doing some terminal improvements. They've got an operations guy there that does a really great job, and he's doing a lot of those small projects, trying to revitalize their terminal and keep it up to date. Pueblo got their runway rehab done, got new LED lights and some new software that goes between the tower and the pilot control lighting. And he said those LEDs, he's pretty sure you can see from space. They're so bright on the runway out there. But the runway grooved, ramp rehab, and T-hanger project that's coming up in 2025, and doing some terminal upgrades. I love hearing about all these terminal upgrades and projects that especially these smaller airports are able to do with very limited funding, and keeping these smaller airports really working well and pretty out here on the Eastern Plains. Just a reminder, the 2025 Pueblo Wings of Pride Air Show in September with the Thunderbirds. And they still have the interested airlines in the Central Air Service contract they've got there. I didn't get any details on specific airlines, but he said that's going to come out pretty soon. So, as far as Burlington goes, we're still working through our taxiway project, which has been marred a little bit by all the wonderful moisture we've been having. That's the best way I can phrase that. It snowed a bunch, but it's good. But it's slowing our project down. They just put the new real lights out yesterday. We're waiting to get those flight checked and certified. We're getting I saw that they had the generator unboxed today, and they're getting ready to set the generator out there. I don't know how many small airports in Eastern Colorado have generators, but we're really excited to have that getting done. Other than that, we're just cruising right along. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, on the western slope, I'll go a quick little tour around the horn. On the western side, Vail's reported some great start of their season. Their flights are loading up pretty good. Delta, congratulations, back to Grand Junction. Congratulations, Angela. That's fantastic. And you continue to make the news with the tremendous progress on your improvements. So that's wonderful to hear. Montrose, Breeze Airways is beginning their winter service into Montrose. And Durango, Tony Vicari celebrated some additional improvements to their terminal building. And so they're celebrating that, and they're ready for the season. And in our little corner of the world, we have Denver Air Connections resuming their 2 flights a day from Denver and Phoenix. And we are about 52% complete of the brand new 42,000 square foot hangar facility and SRE building. So that's going well. The ski area opened up on Thanksgiving. They certainly would love to see a little bit more snow. It's looking good, but we'd like to have maybe 7 to 10 more days so we can get the roof on the new hangar on and enclose it a little bit so they can work through the year. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Kenny. Mark?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. As we talk about every meeting, and we will continue around the avgas and unleaded issue, there's been some changes and maybe a step forward, but potential concern with that step. So Swift has introduced their 100R low lead product. It's being used in San Carlos Flight Center, which is in San Carlos, California, on a fleet of 12 172s. And so that's the first use, the first deployed use. Their STC is limited to just Cessna 172s that have IO 39 or 360 in them. And so that flight school is beginning to use that. At the same time, the Santa Clara County has signed a contract with a fuel producer called Vittle to provide G100 low lead. That's the GAMI product at Reed Hillview. The concern that I have, and I think a lot of people have, is first off, those 2 airports are only 23 nautical miles apart. But today, we know from both of the fuel manufacturers that their fuels don't intermix. They mix well with 100 low lead, but they don't mix with each other. And so while aircraft that have the GAMI STC at Reed Hillview can buy that low unleaded product, you have to have obviously you have to have 172 right now to go to San Carlos and buy that fuel. But the potential of those 2 fuels mixing somewhere along the line is and being put in the same fuel tank right now is just protected by a piece of paper, the STC. So I think we have some concerns. A little bit surprised that the FAA is not being aware or not taking a stronger action on that. None of the press that we releases and things that I've read indicate, talk about that issue. So it's just something for us to watch, and certainly we're communicating with the FAA about that concern. On a real positive side, Sam Graves, who is a Republican congressman from Missouri, received a waiver from the steering committee, the GOP steering committee, that allows him to continue as the chair of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. And Sam is a great friend of aviation, especially general aviation. You can only serve 3 terms, and so this waiver allows him to continue because he's been part of that committee for 3 terms. So we're pretty excited about that. He's moving on. As I do every December, I want to pass the word to watch in January. Wings Over the Rockies, the Captain Jefferson Foundation at Wings will be on the Wings website. Will open up applications for flight scholarships for young people aged 15 to 18. So that, I don't have the exact date, I think it's the 17th, but don't hold me to that. Just if you know a young person that wants to learn to fly, these scholarships are $12,000. We may be raising that number to a little bit higher. But $12,000 scholarships to get the private pilot's license. So last year, if you remember the other reports, we gave out 26 of those scholarships. So, please pass the word. We really are looking for people from outside of just the front range. And with your help, we were successful in getting more from around the state. So that's coming in January. And then the last thing, this sounds a little bit self-serving, but it is relevant to us, is my former company, Jeppesen, which is owned by Boeing, is being put up for sale. Jeppesen has 1,500 employees in Colorado, so they're one of the larger aviation companies. Certainly with all the challenges that Boeing has, focusing back on building airplanes is important. And so they're divesting of some of the information services type companies, and Jeppesen is one of those. So it's just something for us to watch. Boeing has said that they're looking for something north of $6 billion for that business. So it's not an insignificant purchase. And so I'm sitting on the sidelines kind of anxiously waiting and watching to see who might make that acquisition, and that will be. So that's Jeppesen and For Flight together as those two businesses. And that's my report.
Now, is that $6 billion, is that with or without Mark Van Tine?
Well, according to my wife, it would be. That's past tense.
Okay.
In her world.
Thank you, Mark. Jimmy?
Oh, did you have a report?
I will, after you.
Okay, ladies first, I suppose.
Please.
Okay, Trimby Zabo, the Colorado Pilot Organization's representative for the state. Right now, typically this time of year, it's just, I don't really have a report because it's just a lot of holiday gatherings from all the organizations, but I'll be trying to get a report from them all, end of year reports for the January discussion that we'll have at the CAOA conference. But I did want to mention that Colorado Pilots Association had a meeting on Monday, and they're very interested in creating some kind of Colorado press education event. Whether they or some of us attend the Colorado Press Association conference in January, or I think it's in February, or we create a special day for Colorado Press to come and just talk about any way we can educate them so that their news stories are a little more accurate. With a little bit of knowledge about aviation. So that is something that I'm going to hopefully be working with them on, and I might ask Hetty for help with that. But just as a reminder, like I said, I don't have reports for these organizations, but if anybody in the room would like to reach any of the organizations, just let me know. They are the Colorado Pilots Association, the Women in Aviation International Chapter for Colorado, the Colorado Aviation Business Association, all of the EAA chapters, the Colorado 99s, a little bit of commemorative Air Force work there if anybody needs to get a hold of them, Civil Air Patrol as well. And does anybody in here know how Randy Sedigern's doing, by the way? Okay, I wanted to send him some good vibes today, okay? Colorado Aviation Historical Society, the Colorado Agricultural Aviation Association, Daniel, I'm looking at you, and Colorado Seaplane Association, Angel Flight West, the Colorado Airport Operators Association. Yeah, so I'll have a better report in January, but everybody's just having good old holiday cheer.
Trimmy, I'm disappointed you didn't wear your hat.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, my report's not over, so.
Okay.
This is actually out of my hat. Okay, so if anybody's interested in talking with me about the Colorado Aviation Press Day that the Colorado Pilots Association would like to kind of organize or attend, let me know. Thanks. Okay, now you get to wear more.
I didn't know this was part of the deal. Do the ears go forward or back? So, I will put this on in a minute. Just want to remind everybody, the Colorado Airport Operators Association, we just mentioned that our next meeting is coordinated. That'll be at the winter conference. It's here in Denver and it's on the website now. I think they got that up a little bit late, so if you want to register, please jump on and register for that. Last time I mentioned that at Den we were about to start the transition of our AFFF foam to the fluorine-free foam. That actually started. We're about halfway through. Dave and some of the staff were able to come out and see that operation. It takes about 1 week, roughly. It's a little different for each truck, but about 1 week for us to get through that process. There are definitely some surprises as you do the transition. And at Denver International Airport, we of course, one of our goals is to be environmentally friendly, greenest airport in the world, possibly someday, but we kind of have well above and beyond what the minimums are that are required. So we're definitely learning a lot, doing that with other airports here in Colorado. And maybe figuring a way out to make it easier for other airports to transition when they get to that point. Yeah, they're definitely going strong on that effort. I think also next week or the end of this week, we'll be meeting with CDPHE. That buyback program that I've been touting so much, we've run into a glitch with that, at least as far as Denver's concerned, that we're going to talk to them about and see if we can adjust slightly. Without going into detail, it's just a matter of they have put a program together to give airports $40 per gallon of $40 per gallon of the concentrate that we remove from trucks so that we can replace it with the new fluorine-free foam. The catch for us is they don't have a way of doing the second part of that, which is they will then, as long as you've taken it out of the trucks, they'll come and get it at some point and take it and dispose of it for free. That is really altogether a huge, huge benefit. The catch for us is that we have to keep that AFFF on the airport until they're able to do that. For us, that's a problem. And so I think it's combined right now in such a way that we can't take advantage of the $40 per gallon if we don't have the others. So I just wanted to kind of lay that out there that we're going to be talking about that, I think, later on, hopefully making a difference there. But it is an awesome program, and I just don't want to take advantage of it. And then another interesting thing at Denver International Airport is some of you may have known that secret that we've had, the A bridge screening. I mean, it's off and on been kind of a really well-kept secret, other times really popular. Kind of a hidden away thing. It is closed now. So I'm going to share with you another well-kept secret. Don't tell anybody else. I know this is public, but there is a Denver Reserve. If you're flying out of Denver, it's a free program. Go on to the Fly Denver website. As long as you're willing to commit to a certain 15-minute time frame, and really it's kind of more half hour, 15 minutes either way, but commit to that time frame that you will be there at the checkpoint for screening. You can bypass that entire line and go straight to the document checker. It is really a good deal. So that hopefully will make a difference on getting rid of the A bridge. Then the last one is, I know Kenny Memba, this is his last meeting on the board here. And I just wanted to take advantage of some opportunity to say a couple of things because he made a huge impact on my career. And it goes back to really the 1990s. I feel like I'm saying something when I say that, but back in the 90s, when I first met him, he was actually on a panel that was brought in for my interview for a promotion, and that's where I met him. I don't remember how much I had to pay him to help me me out with
It's
that.
a lot of
but-
drinks.
Yeah. I've been paying ever since.
Yeah.
That, and then with Colorado Airport Operators Association, he was really a person that talked me into being on the executive board for that. And I don't want to say talked me into in a bad way, but encouraged me, supported me in doing it. And I just know I couldn't have done it without him doing that support for me. And then this board, the Aeronautical Board, same thing. He was able to just kind of spot the opportunity and for me and encourage me and put in a good word for me. And I just wanted to say I appreciate all you've done for my career, and it really is this time being on the board with you as well as CAO and everything else.
Thank you, Steve. That's
Thanks.
really nice.
We're gonna miss you, Kenny.
Thank you.
That ends my report.
Thank you, Steve. Kenny touched on a lot of the great things that are happening in the Western Slope. Daniel's comments about runway lighting made me remember a story. At the Cortez Airport, there's an incredible plaque and a flight suit from a U-2 pilot. And the story was on a training mission in August of 1959. He had a flame out over the mountains, southern Colorado, cloudy night. He couldn't restart. He's descending through the clouds in the mountains. He ends up in a mountain valley. And of all things, to his left and ahead of him, he sees runway lights at Cortez. He lands the plane, ground loops safely. And at the time, the U-2 was an absolute secret. So the Air Force rushed to Cortez, covered up the plane, took the wings off, hauled it away. But his flight suit and that story are in Cortez's airport to this day. And it just made me think how important these things can be and how life-saving it can be. And ironically, so the plaque says that the city council was debating that very night whether to keep the runway lights on. And they did narrowly vote to keep those lights on.
That's cool.
How about we go to director's report, Dave?
Let's get public comments, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Are there any public comments? We'll limit any public comments to 2 minutes.
I have some, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind.
Please,
Okay.
can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My name is Brad Walker, and I live in Superior, Colorado. I'm also a pilot that uses Front Range airports quite extensively. Also been involved in a lot of political battles, and that is for you today. But first, let me say it's great that this meeting's being held out of the division offices here. Me out of the Boulder, Denver bubble, and that's a good thing. It also is a great excuse for me to work on my airplane hangar on this airport. Hopefully my words there or stern. I'm a work in progress, as my wife likes to say. You are aware Kyle Brown successfully passed legislation, HB 24-1235, targeting aviation specifically at Centennial Airport and Rocky Mountain. This legislation is nothing more than political pain. So let me provide some background. I got involved with defending RMMA 7 years ago when my town board hired a consultant to determine how to affect change at RMMA. At the same time, the HOA got involved where they sued Rocky Mountain Metro for some easements lifted. The home in the community, Rock Creek. The consultant's report that was hired by the town didn't provide any change that they wanted. So the communities roundtables were created with the FAA and local governments, just like this board, but on a local level. My mayor just took the approach that he was going to single-handedly dictate terms to RMMA, and that is not how one gets changed. The airport responded with letters documenting how change must come voluntarily, as they are governed by FAA grant assurances, rules, and regulations. Kyle Brown for this roundtable also, As Mr. Brown and Ms. Mayor Lasis were not able to get the change they desired, the CNR was dissolved. Kyle Brown was subsequently appointed state leader. What did come out of the CNR was a piece of legislation called HB 24-1235, and now we'll deal with the ramifications of that. As for Mayor, convinced my town board to sue RMMA, requesting the airport stop all touch-and-go operations. In addition, my HOA also sued RMMA in an inverse condemnation proceeding, which is currently ongoing in both of those cases. So now the good folks of Jefferson County have to defend a mess created by the pandering politicians, and the airport has to defend itself, all at great expense. I would note that none of the legal proceedings are really necessary because change can, but it does take rational people to have frank and honest conversations, not machinations. But anyways, this makes for great political intrigue. None of this matters so long as this board stays true to its mission. And I quote from the state law, this board established for the policy, it was created to establish policies for the growth and development of aviation in this state, as defined in the state law. So again, as long as this board stays true to its mission and continues the good work that it's done in the past, we're not going to have any issues going forward.
Brad, I'm going to have to give you a few seconds to.
Not a problem, I'm almost.
And if you like, you can deliver your comments to us in writing too.
Not a problem, I didn't know if it was 2 minutes, I didn't know what the limit was. Like I said, I'm just going to wrap up. This does affect the state, and that's why I do bring it to your attention. Town board is, there's lawsuits that are forthcoming and affect statewide the aviation in this state. So I'm sure we'll be talking more as we go forward, and hopefully in this holiday season, my won't more too dire and too stern.
Appreciate you coming and thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other public comments? Great. Director's report, Dave.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, we also skipped airport updates. I'm sorry.
How can I do that?
That's okay. That's okay. Keep your $50.
You are earning your salary. Do we have any airport updates? Ansel?
Angela Padalecki from the Grand Junction Regional Airport. Thank you for letting me speak for just a couple of minutes, and thanks to Kenny for covering some of what's happening at the airport. So we are into our winter construction season on our runway replacement program. The team worked hard to set things up to where it won't even slow in the winter construction season. It'll mainly be drainage. Really excited to share that on Thursday, the FAA announced their Track Tower Award, Build Grant Award, and we were awarded a $1.3 million grant. We're really excited about that because our tower was built in 1961. As I was driving up to this meeting, I was admiring this tall, newer. But really, we just want to buy time with our existing tower so that technology can catch up. Right. And, we can address some of the bigger picture issues, but we're really excited because that'll allow us to address most of the issues in the cab. We saw temperatures below 80 this summer. But we welcome back Delta Airlines. Director Shoshana Liu came out and gave Merck's. Thanks for all the support on that. As everyone probably knows, we lost that Delta service in the pandemic, and that would be 5-year service 4 times to that Delta Lake. Now we have twice daily hub. That's really important for connectivity in our communities, a distance between Denver and Salt Lake. And so the connectivity to Salt Lake is really strong, and it's a valuable hub. It also just gives passengers more options to keep fares a little bit lower. So overall, things are going great at our airport. We expect the busiest year ever, and it looks even brighter. So thank you for letting me quick report. Is there anything I didn't cover? I guess I didn't give an update on the ARF truck. We're excited. The ARF truck came in. The up to $900,000 grant to help us purchase an ARF truck. Thank you for that. When we bids back, the bids came in a little bit better than we feared, and so we were able to purchase that ARF truck. And unfortunately, I think it had 2-year lead time is how much they gave themselves, but we're hoping we'll get it next year. And it'll be the 3,000 gallon truck. We intend to have it be fluorine-free from the get-go.
Thank you, Angela. I've been so excited to hear the director's report.
You may be disappointed. I don't want to your expectations, Chair, but thank you. As Steve alluded to, not only did the team to go see their our transition to fluorine-free phones and do a cool little field trip, I got to do a different field trip that Steve set up to see the airport customer booths that, of course, we need to replace the grant that we to the airport here. And so we worked at Stapleton, place got a special place in my heart. The booths were from Stapleton, and it's really amazing booths that there and how each one's different, and none of them are ideal. So it was really cool to come see what your folks are dealing with today, and we're going to do that. So thanks for the tour. That was really cool to get to see that. And then we had an opportunity after that to sit down with their team, talk a little bit about what some future grants for DEN might look like. So Steve, thanks for that update. Thanks for coming through those. Other thing I'll point out this time of the year, like we do, the team's been busy putting together all for the 2025 airport directory and the 2025 aeronautical chart. Thanks again to Sean's amazing, Sean, if you go back real quick, this year's theme is acrobatic aircraft. So we've got Metro State's Game Bird aircraft there on the directory, and Bob Freeman, I think, is the only extra 330 SX in the United States. I think that's the only one currently flying in the U.S. And of course, he's a well-known air show pilot based out of Longmont. So again, Sean, great job on the aerial pictures there. Not sure about what we do in the front of the Metro. Anyway, that was a fun day. So very cool to do that. We have made several improvements and enhancements to the chart directory this year. We have added new information with the burgeoning availability of sustainable aviation fuel at airports across the state, with what we expect to be. Go back one more. Too soon. That's okay. Close up of that. There we go. And with the increasing of unleaded avgas that we expect to really come into play next year, we have added information airports that have unleaded avgas. Of course, that's only Centennial. And then the other thing that we've done is more and more airports are adopting voluntary airport noise abatement programs. Included new information. Sean can show this for the airports that do have plans. A quick reference code so pilots can then to the airport and go right to that airport's abatement information. So we really want to make sure we're getting all of this information out to our users as much as possible. So we'll evolve this. If we get more airports that have more noise abatement information, we may have to rethink how we do, because it could get cluttered pretty quickly. We really want to make sure we're doing our part to help spread the word about this. So this is a new thing that we've added to both the chart and airport direct this year. So to the team, they're a great job with that. Those should be available on first part of January. They're going to the printer this week. Yep. So again, thank you a great shout out to Colorado Pilots Association. We've got a great ship with them on our flying safety information that we update every year on this. And of course, this chart this year now will include the new VFR waypoints on the 15 mountain passes kit that we added those to this year.
Yes, sir. There's going to be a total of
20. Okay.
Started passes, and this is the additional 10 that we're going to do.
Awesome. So those will be on our chart for next year. Been on the sector for several months. We'll update that. So thank you for that. Just another quick update is noted Mr. Mampa is off after years on the board, 2 full terms, not including his terms from a previous life when he ran the Rocky Mountain Metro Airport. But we'll have a special presentation for him at CI because as the airport Telluride like a bag penny, we think he's going to keep showing up to stuff. That's right. Up there, but we'll look forward to giving you some recognition at CIA for that, Mr. Mampa. So with that, the governor's board's and commission's office will be appointing a replacement for Kenny. Mr. Amelia's term is up also this year, so they're reconsidering the with the community representatives that were created by House Bill 1235. This week, the governor's office had interviews with candidates for those positions, and I think that by the end of the month, they will announce who they've appointed. So as soon as I know, we'll keep you, and then those first reappointments will be ready for our CAB meeting on January 28th. That will be their first meeting, so I'll keep you all posted as I hear anything from the government on that. So that's it for me, Mr. Chair, unless there's anything.
Thank you, Dave. Go to agenda item 9, financial advice.
Mr. Jumping right into it. Aeronautics revenue for November at 3.1 million, which was 62% of the forecasted 5 million. We continued big variance on there because obviously we're just nowhere near where we want it to be. That is the from United that has transitioned their fuel provider to Sinclair Denver, and they are about 6 months behind. Things caught up. I had a call with numerous calls with DOR the last couple of weeks here. Figured out the number that we're missing in total revenue to be about $9 million so far this fiscal, which if you plug that in and run the forecast, actually about 6% ahead of where we had forecasted. So as we talk about, forecast number we had set for the year, 57 million, is lagging way behind that, but that's entirely made up of what we're expecting for United. They did start filing. They had a July filing come in. Payment was literally, I was on the phone with DOR last week. So they're hoping they're catching up, and if they don't get that quickly, the DOR is going to exercise their "you're going to get audited" threat to them. We're working with them to get it back, and we should be expecting that up in the next couple months, which will make this graph look a little bit more like except I can stop coming and reporting 60% of forward revenues. But we keep them on there just because when it does hit, it gives a more accurate picture really where we think we're at. So that does continue to affect us. I'll try not to reference United to go through the rest. It does impact all of our financial revenue with 9 million of 17 million has been reported. So 9 is roughly filings for revenue comes out of Denver. So.
Bryce, if there's anything we can do in that regard, let us know.
And Dave's good at that too, asking what he needs to do there. I did have a great conversation with the controller at DOR there. I did the math for them, so this is what we're missing. This is the average percentages. So we're chasing that up here. We should get that soon. And I've been here long enough to remember. So this did happen 15 years ago when United switched fuel vendors to themselves. And then only got a $10 million check on filings that haven't happened. This time we know it's coming, and we know why that is. So revenue's down is pretty much where we expected it to be without the United filings. Next slide here looks at our cash balance. Again, certainly an effect here. We finished November at 23. That was a $4,000 increase from 23 million we finished in November. Haven't forecasted that, and it was largely due to the lack of drones grants compared to what we were forecasting. We know they've picked up quite a bit this month, so it's coming better there. Again, as we look at the cash balance here, sitting at 4 million, we're in the 9 million roughly missing from United filings. That would be another $3 million that would be sitting on our books here in cash balance. So even at 3, we're still healthy, fully ready for our grant program next year. You guys have already approved that we'll be here in a bit. That extra $3 million already allocated to that there. So financially, the cash balance is great even without it, but we know there's more coming to that. So we remain in a healthy financial position. Tax disbursements per month, we spent 1.7 million in November, 1.5 of which was sales tax, 179,000 excise on Avjet, and 17,000 excise on gas. Breakdowns, everything looks good. Like you said, we're just missing that on top there. And then we will see an abnormal spike whenever that does come through because we'll assess fuel reimbursements to Denver at the same time. But overall, it's following the expected trend lines based on the information. Our contingency analysis, again, approved by the CAB in 2025, our CDA program will be $19 million. As we kind of look at our worst case forecasting, you can see here our projected cash balance, again, with what it is, exceptionally healthy. As we look out towards the end of 2026, Expected bumps in revenue will only help that, but we remain absolutely healthy. Our worst case plotting of $45 and pull it at $37.5 million. Vastly under what we're looking at today. When I did the reports up, we were 8% dollars per barrel, 68 I should say, and 45 million gallons monthly in Denver. So as they continue to set records, as we look out 12 months into the future, turn the spigot off as we look. Worst case, as we plan that way, we're still in fantastic shape. We have nothing to be concerned about with our upcoming grant program, and that's why we designed it that way. Next one is our administrative expenses. Our state ending cap for revenue 2.7, 845,000 at last January's CAB meeting. Our forecast spend for the 745,000, which would have 1.4% of FY24 revenue below the statutory cap. As always, we run exceptional. The numbers are projecting forward as we go, so we're in great shape. Put up against any statutory limits or even that, so we remain good there. Side looks at our flow. Flowage at Denver in November was 44.7 million gallons, highest November. That is 8 straight months of 9 months. It was down 1% from October's 45.3 million, and up 1% from November of 2023 when they were 40 million. It was down 4% from the forecast, 45.2 million gallons, but you can see from there, it crushed previous highs in November. It stayed relatively flat to October, which was normal. We definitely saw a noticeable uptick in November, which was great. Forecast for December flowage is 46.7 million gallons. That'll be an increase of 4% from November's flow and a 3% increase from December 2023 forecast. Record high. I suspect you probably not, but that's the information by FM who get these forecast data from and talk to them. They're also giving us more information as far as when they have tanks online, how they're getting things fuel to the airport when situations like that have. So it's getting more done, which is good. I've been spitballing with them a little bit on our forecast, and they've actually requested there's been a few times they've said, I think they're quite a bit low here. Typically, we're right because the trend lines follow, and they've asked us to share that information with them as well, just so they can kind of be prepared, because it's not a quick spigot to turn on to get more oil in the pipeline to get there. So overall, things look exceptionally healthy in Denver. That line on top there, like I said, it's 8 straight months forecasting a 9th of record fuel flows month over month. It's been pretty tremendous, and that'll be 11 out of 12 months this year that are projected to have record highs. So that's a pretty fantastic ratio. I believe that's the last of my slides. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding any of them or anything I didn't cover from any of the board members.
Great work as usual, Bryce.
Any questions? Thank you, Bryce. 9.2, out-of-state travel. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just by a matter of background, each April you all approve a dedicated staff professional development plan and related out-of-state travel plan for the next fiscal year. That includes all of our costs associated with planned trips outside the state for our team. Your approval of that plan is a requirement under CDOT out-of-state travel procedures. So in August, you adopted that plan totaling $33,950, but we have some updates for you. A couple of changes since then. We need to delete the FAA's 5010 training, and that's now going to take place at a later date. We want to delete participation in the Airport Consultants Council Airport Planning Symposium in lieu of the recently scheduled FAA's Northwest Mountain Region Airports Conference in Seattle. Will take place early next year. We'll delete participation in the Government Finance Officers Association Conference, and we will add, or proposing to add, a digital tower trip in March to the FAA's Tech Center in Atlantic City to see firsthand with FAA the progress of RTX with their system design approval process on the digital tower, which Bill's going to talk a little bit later during his report. That's really the change. Even though it's a net decrease in the budget of $2,050, we still do need your approval of the updated plan just to make sure we're complying with CDOT's rules on out-of-state travel approvals.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Dave? Would entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay, very good. And 9.3, Scott?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to provide you a couple updates on supplemental funding requests that we've had since our last meeting in October. We received 2 requests. The first was for Delta Blake Field for a grant we had issued earlier this year to replace their airport beacon. The grant was originally issued for $67,500. They had requested an additional $22,914, which we are processing internally from the priorly approved supplemental fund budget. The total new grant will be $90,414, and that was due to bids coming in a little higher than was priorly estimated before the original grant was issued. Secondly, we have a request from Grand Junction Regional Airport, and that was in regards to our match on a federal project, which was a 22 fiscal year grant. Our match was originally $124,566, and they requested an additional $6,451. So that new total will be $131,017, and that was due to them receiving more bill funding from the FAA than we had expected when the grant was originally issued. Any questions?
Great. Thank you, Scott. Let's go to item 9.4, FY 2025 Technical Services Budget Amendment.
Excellent. This is way more exciting than it sounds on the agenda, Mr. Chair, but the staff is requesting the board's approval of a $125,000 amendment to the FY 2025 Technical Services Cost Center that would accommodate the development and implementation of a Division mobile application as we outlined in our 2024 strategic plan. And again, I'll just refresh everybody. Back in October, you all adopted our new 2024 strategic plan, which included 4 goals with underlying objectives. Goal 3 is one that's been part of our plan for the 6 years that we've been doing those. Challenges us to update existing statewide initiatives and looking at new initiatives that add value to our users and our system folks. So Goal 2 specifically challenged us to develop and deploy an aviation airport mobile application, providing our users with key aviation information, and also develop an airport passport program, which encourages pilots to use various airports around the state and visit different facilities and brag about it. A lot of states do that, we do not. So we conducted an Ask Ms. Sales survey of our state peers, and we were kind of surprised to find that only Oklahoma has a really robust directory app and a passport program that's incorporated into that app. So that was a little bit surprising to us, but they're fantastic, and they were nice enough to share with our team their experience, and based on what they've learned, it looks like about $125,000 is what it would cost to initially develop that app, and that would include some of this basic functionality. We are not looking to reinvent ForeFlight. We're not looking to reinvent Garmin Pilot. That's not what we're up to, but we would basically take the airport directory that we printed for all these years, put it into a digital format where pilots can search it, get the information on their phone. We could update it more frequently because of that than we do our paper app once a year. We'd also be able to include live feeds in the app, which ForeFlight doesn't do right now, for our weather cameras and that kind of information, which would be pretty cool. So we'd love to do that. We'd also be able to also introduce the noise abatement information and alternative fuel availability into the app too, so pilots could be able to see where that is, and we'd be able to also update that quicker than we could with the paper app. And then the passport program, it's very cool. North Dakota's got a fantastic one. Washington State's got one where pilots would be able to create profiles, look at the airport info, and then basically use a geofence and check in. And as they do that, they can be recognized and get awards for visiting certain airports. Our peers in Oklahoma do kind of challenges during the year, like they did a Thanksgiving challenge. If you flew to certain airports in a certain period, you got a little extra recognition. And apparently they all love patches. They get patches if they do certain things, which are kind of cool. So we would love to do that. So that's what we're looking to do with that amendment, is to add $125,000 to the previously approved $25,000 to revise that cost center budget to $150,000. And Mr. Chair, I've already bugged Mr. Van Tine, given his experience in taking Jeppesen digital in his previous life to help us do that. And of course, we would work very closely with the Colorado pilots and others to make sure we were incorporating the functionality that the users would really want into that. So we're excited about that. Our goal is to get that going, if you all approve that, and have it ready to be deployed at Oshkosh in July is our plan, so.
Very exciting. Questions for Dave?
No, just a comment, the passport functionality and having that kind of a program. Sean, if you think about the people that you talk to at Oshkosh, a reason to come to Colorado, and a specific goal, they can set goals. And I think with CPA, create some challenges with that organization to get the positive. It's a neat.
And I want pilots to understand this is not intended to be a replacement for our paper chart and our paper directory. We appreciate the pilots, still love those. We'll continue to do those. This will be a supplement to those.
I think it's fantastic. I'm always looking for more ways to leverage this awesome webcam system that we have in the state, and Fort Flight's kind of dragging their feet on incorporating it in there, and I think anywhere we can do that is just awesome. So I think this is great.
And kudos to you for sure for the scanning in the app,
Oh, for the
or
keyword.
not the app, in the directory. That's really cool. And then would you be working on that quite a bit, Sean, with the app? And who is it gonna be Sean?
It's gonna be me and Hetty primarily working on the
Okay.
development of it. Once we get that ball rolling, Hetty and I will be working with the developer to make it what we want. What's cool about it too is we can grow it. It can get bigger. We can add more things to it as ideas come up. Another thing to add in there is, one of our big missions when we go to Oshkosh is to promote mountain flying safety. So maybe incorporating an education portion to that. Come on out, do the passport program, but here's how to do it safe. So yeah, there's all kinds of great ideas, and we rely tremendously on our pilot community with different ideas on how we can make it better. That's how we made the directory as good as it is from input from the pilot community. So we rely on that quite a bit.
And I would say, based on Oklahoma's experience, it looks between $15,000 and $20,000 would be our ongoing annual cost, and we would reflect that into future budgets going forward with that, because there would be obviously a cost to keep that up and make improvements to it going forward.
Great. Would entertain a motion.
I move.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Great. Todd, state and local CDAG.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with all the great news that Bryce talked about here a little bit ago, with all the revenue coming to the state and all the record highs, this is kind of the fun part about it. This is the first round of our 2025 CDAG program with our state and local program. So what this is purely our grant review. We present each of the applications directly to the board, so you guys can ask questions about them prior to putting them on the January consent agenda for actual consideration. So as we run through these, please again ask questions if questions come up. There's a lot of them. I will say the planning team put in a ton of work this year. As Bryce talked about, increased our grant program from last year at $16 million to $19 million this year. So they definitely put in some time to kind of fill that gap that we had not expected, but really put together a pretty cool program for you today. So this is kind of a summation of the applications this year. We have 27 airports with 31 different projects that we got applications for. And again, as you can see, and this is very common for us, those top two rows are mainly pavement. That's where a lot of our money goes. So it accounts for about 72% of our program. And again, right at that $10 million mark really is pavement for us. So also through this, you can see that we had some fuel farm projects for design and construction of that just about 1.2 million. And then also, as referenced earlier, is HB 24-1235. We got 3 applications for some unleaded fuel projects as well. And so as I highlighted those in here, just so we can kind of track that as well. So those will total $742 $1,700 for that. So we are excited to get some of those projects off the ground. And then again, just a couple lighting and navigation projects. And then as was kind of discussed, another project to Denver is what's planned to update their digital wayfinding system. And I'll give a little bit more explanation of that as we go through them. But again, total 31 projects. And this is again, just our state and local program for the January meeting, right at $13.8 million. And before I get into them, in past years, we've also included our overmatch projects, which is we always match the federal funding up to a certain amount, but sometimes it makes sense for us to add additional funding beyond that at 90-10, just so we can get more done. We are not bringing those overmatch projects to this meeting or January. Mainly, we wanted to delay those to our April meeting to ensure that we get as solid numbers as we can. We're hoping we have some bids open between now and then we're able to make kind of a better decision to fulfill that gap between our 13.8 and that $19 million program. So again, this is purely our state and local projects. These aren't really associated with any federal projects. So this is a fun list, and again, we have slides for each of these 27 airports, and I'll kind of get into details on each of them, explain what they are. But as we go through them, please ask questions. So first on the docket is the Delta Airport. The Blake Field Airport in Delta, Colorado. Airfield pavement maintenance, you'll hear me say that a lot as we go through this. Just as you can see, a lot of our money goes through that. But $350,000 to do airfield pavement maintenance at Delta. Centennial is our next one, and they actually have two different projects, and this is kind of our first project that highlights the unleaded fuel program. They were the first last year to do the fuel subsidy program, where we helped reimburse them up to $2 per gallon for the unleaded fuel subsidy program. So they've requested another $350,000 for that program this year. And then we are also helping them with the purchase of a front end loader with a blower attachment for another $324,000 at Centennial. Colorado Air and Spaceport is our next one, and yet again another application for our unleaded program. They are actually replacing their entire fuel system, not just their underground or their above ground system over here, but they're also going to replace their self-serve fuel. But there is a portion of that they plan on transitioning to unleaded fuels as well. And so we cut out a chunk from the unleaded fuel program for the design of specifically the unleaded aspect of this project. And then the remaining $292,500 is for the design of the rest of the fuel system. It's going to be a quite pricey project over the next few years for the actual installation. But again, these two projects really are helping to get that program designed at least, so that they'll be ready to install that when it is done.
And one of the things I would jump in as we talk about fuel farms is it is our policy, we do not pay for underground fuel storage tank mitigation. If there was leaking or anything like that, that's outside of our bailiwick. There's other avenues of funding airports can pursue if they've got issues with their existing underground tanks. So that is not part of any of our fuel farm projects now or in the future.
Absolutely. And the other thing I'll mention as well is with the unleaded program, those are at a 90-10. So we provide 90% of that funding and the locals provide 10%. But with the other fuel farm projects, those are at a 50-50. So usually up to a cap of about $450,000. So again, still trying to highlight the unleaded program and make sure we're kind of committing as much money as we can to that to try to quicken the transition away from leaded aviation fuel. So again, two pretty quick unleaded program requests right after each other. So the next one is Denver International Airport. As they talked about, our last grant for Denver was updating the customer service booths. This was another pretty cool project. We talk with Denver usually once or twice a year to try to figure out where our program fits in with the mammoth CIP of Denver. And so they threw a couple projects at us, and this was kind of the one that went to the top. This is a digital wayfinding system throughout the concourses in the terminal, really to just update that, make it easier for everyone to work their way through the airport. I see it as kind of a nice follow-on to the customer service booths. Again, we are just trying to make that airport as easily accessible as possible, which is really important for us. And so we're able to give we got an application from them for just under $500,000 to update that entire system at the airport. So again, really happy to find a project that kind of fits in well for both of us. So That's the plan for Denver. Next one is Erie. We are helping them replace their electrical vault at the airport for $450,000. The vault is currently in kind of the FBO building, and it's just not in a great spot, so they're going to get that replaced, and I believe they are going to move it to a different location as well. So another great project at Erie. Next on the list is the Fremont County Airport in Canyon City. This is somewhat of an odd project for us for $70,000. We are helping them do a runway geotechnical investigation. This airport has an odd geological feature on it. There is a fault that actually runs perpendicular to the runway. So it crosses the runway, crosses the taxiway, crosses the ramp, and it seems to be moving quite a bit. And so as you can see, this is actually a picture from last year when we were out there. This is their taxiway where you can actually see the waves in it. It was very odd to see actually in person. And so trying to do PCI of that was interesting. They have already fixed the runway once to try to lessen this big bump that was created, but it continues to move. And so we are helping them do a geotechnical investigation to get some cores in, see what really the best fix is for this runway. So we can try to make it less look like a roller coaster and more of a taxiway and a runway is the hope. So, but again, you can kind of see what exactly it looks like when you're on the ground there, rather than I just tell you it's a geotechnical investigation report. So
That's crazy.
it is crazy. I will agree.
Just like make it a lake and then put like a pier across it.
It's crazy. And even like on Google Earth or an aerial image, you can literally see the fault as it goes through the airport. And again, it hits the ramp, it hits everything. So it's not the best location, but it's okay. But kind of an interesting project, so we can start planning for the future to try to get this fixed. Next project is up in Glenwood. I am still struggling to say the right name for this airport. Glenwood Springs is no longer the Glenwood Springs Municipal Airport. It has officially changed their name to KGWS Summers Air Park. And Scott actually did submit, I believe, to the FAA an update to that as well. So that is in process of changing all the periodicals.
Yeah, and it's published, and just, I had to double check this myself, but Summers went in on intentionally because it's the last name of the gentleman that donated the land to the city to build the airport.
So there's been a lot of interesting movement at this airport recently. Kind of the management of it has changed, and they've really taken hold and really look forward to the future of this airport. And so we're helping them actually with a couple projects, $125,000 going to an updated airport layout plan, so they can kind of have a good plan of when new hangar owners want to come and build hangars, they'll be able to kind of have a good explanation of where to put those. Go ahead, Scott.
And I will just say, they actually don't currently have any kind of airport plans, so this will be the development for their future.
Yeah, so we are really looking forward to getting that done. And again, with this new group taking hold, we're excited to see where this airport goes. And then the second project here is just under $100,000 for some more airfield pavement maintenance. They did a great overlay of this runway a few years ago, and so we're going to help them just keep that runway sealed and kind of make it last as long as possible up there at Glenwood. It'll take me a while to actually call it the right thing. I'll put it that way. Even in my document, I called it the wrong thing. So, next airport is the Gunnison Crested Butte Regional Airport. We are helping them with a very large pavement maintenance project. The hope is we'll be able to do the entire runway, and then I believe the west side of the taxiway, which is the newer portion, it's the lower left of this screen. But again, $1 million going to this project to try to keep that pavement as new as possible, as that runway was rehabbed here maybe five-ish years ago. So pretty large pavement maintenance project at Gunnison. Next one is the Harriet Alexander Airport in Salida. Another fuel farm construction project. So here's that 50-50 as we talked about. And I will say up to 50-50 with this one. As you guys can see, the local funds actually being sent to this. So $450,000. They have a 12,000 gallon tank for Jet A and 100 low lead currently underground, and they are replacing that to above ground, same size, but we're committing $450,000 to this, but they're also bringing a lot of local funds to this. And I think Caitlin can give some background on some of these local funds.
So this is actually when we had the delta between what we needed to spend and what we had grants submitted for. We reached out to Salida. They have secured a DOLA grant they did not come to us originally for help with this fuel farm. They were doing it between the locals and some DOLA funds. They know we will not help them with remediation of their current underground tanks, but they were ecstatic about the assistance because obviously some stuff is running higher than normal, just like every other project around the whole country. So that 450 that we brought to the table, we were the last ones to the table. They were definitely well underway with the project, and we're just going to help them get to the finish line with them, some three-phase power to the new site and some other stuff that will help them get that. They're also planning to be able to accommodate unleaded fuel when that becomes a reality for them. So they're not necessarily focused on it, but they haven't forgotten about it either. So they're very appreciative of the board's assistance with this, and this is definitely not something that we are the majority of, like we are on some. We're way less than 50% on this one. So kudos to Salida for that one for sure.
Yeah, this is where I definitely appreciate the planning staff. They know the nuts and bolts of every one of these projects. They've worked with all of the airports to get all these applications submitted, make sure they're following all the checklists. So again, the additional detail is huge with these projects from the planning staff. So we're really excited to get this one undergoing. Again, I really like showing that local funding, that they're not just coming for us to pay for everything. They're bringing a huge chunk. And again, Witten found some innovative ways to find some additional local funds through DOLA. So pretty cool project at Salida. Next one is one of our smaller airports on the Eastern Plains. This is Haxton. It's always fun to show this this picture. You can't even hardly see the runway because it looks like a road. And I will say it is, I would say a little less than 10 feet off of that dirt road. But that is an east-west runway right there that is paved, is in really good condition. For a very small town, they do an amazing job keeping this runway in good condition. Crackfill, they do a lot of their pavement maintenance. And then when they came to us, they actually, just this last year, they installed runway lights that were actually replacements from Holyoke. Holyoke replaced their lights with a federal project. And so their old lights now have this lit up, which kind of led to the next project, which was a taxiway and ramp rehabilitation project. You can see kind of one hangar down there in the bottom left-hand corner there. It is pure, I think it was asphalt at one point. I will never call it that again around there. But the idea is to rehab that and actually get it so you can get off the runway and have a place to park. And that was a really big thing for their medical operator. It allows them to get off that runway and still let it be used. But again, and now that there's lighting, it can be 24 hours a day. So a really cool project at a small town that does a great job keeping their airport up to date. So again, $78,000 project to do a taxiway and ramp rehabilitation project at Haxton.
My family farm was 11 miles from there.
Yeah, cool. It is very cool. So these small airports are actually fun to go out to, I'll give you that. Hopkins Field over in Nukla is our next one, another $350,000 project for a runway pavement maintenance project. This runway was rehabilitated not very many years ago, 3 to 4 years ago, and this is purely to do just a pavement maintenance on the runway because there is a large federal project planned in the near future to rehabilitate all the taxiways and the ramp as well. So this airport is going to be in very good condition in the very near future. So fun little pavement maintenance project at Nukla. Next one is La Junta. This is a runway 826 rehabilitation design. So this is, again, we're just doing a planning study ahead of time, getting ready for this rehabilitation. It's planned for about a $5 million project in 26. And this is where it's fun, where we can actually help the FAA, where we're helping with our funding on the design side, so they can spend all of those federal funds actually on the construction side. So really getting ready to rehab their main runway at La Junta.
That's awesome because so many flight schools send their students on cross countries to La Junta from this area because it's just the right distance.
That is amazing. Yeah, they get a lot of training traffic, not just from this area. DOS goes there a ton as well. It's not DOS anymore. It's a bunch of different letters. CA at this point. But yeah, so training our future Air Force pilots as well. But it's heavily used whenever we go there and do our inspections. It's amazing to see the little birds flying around there. So, and every once in a while, some cool military aircraft come through as well. So, but that is La Junta. The next one is McElroy Field in Kremlin. Again, another project that I can say I've never helped with is the blast fence replacement. This is on the very west side, or the top right of this this photo is a blast fence. that's about 300 feet off the end of the runway, and then it's a road directly on the other side, and then fairgrounds. And so their blast fence that's currently in place right now is crumbling, and they need to get that replaced to make sure that road and the fairgrounds are still usable when the aircraft is taking off. So $200,000 project to help them replace their blast fence.
So Todd, may I interject, please?
Please do.
So this is another thing where we supported the feds on this. The airport had originally asked the feds to help them out with this, but because the FAA would have a lot of, it would probably be very complex or a very simple project with all their requirements and everything, the ADO asked us if we could pick this project up for them, and we happily did it. Yeah, it was an easy thing to do.
Perfect, thank you, Kip. All right, on to Meeker. Another fuel farm installation. So this was very similar as Salidas, where they are replacing underground fuel tanks, both 12,000 gallon tanks, 2 above ground tanks with fuel delivery system and everything. And again, this one's that $450,000, and this was one of those 50-50s. So hopefully a $900,000 project, but ours is a max of that 50% up to $450,000. So good to get these underground tanks taken care of, because there are definitely deadlines coming with all of these underground tanks throughout the state. So.
And if I might, real quick, I'd point out, I think everybody on the board knows that even though this is not specifically called out as a fuel farm to support unleaded avgas, it's very easy, as Centennial Airport at Denver Jet Center proved, to convert an existing 100 low lead tank to unleaded avgas at a later date. So just because it's not specifically called out at this moment as a future unleaded avgas tank doesn't mean that these new fuel farms certainly could make that transition in the future. And if there's costs associated with that, that's something that if the airport owns the fuel farm, we will certainly have conversations with them about helping them make that transition. So I just want to make sure for everybody's edification, that's part of that thought.
Appreciate that, Dave. All right, that is Meeker. On to the Mineral County Memorial Airport in Creede, Colorado. So again, we helped them rehab the runway here just a few years ago, and a couple new projects going on at the airport. So $175,000 to replace their segmented circle and wind cone. And then kind of the fun one to talk about is the $126,000 land acquisition project that I'll let Scott talk about a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so this kind of happened last minute. It always been in a long-term plan for them, but if you see that what looks like a dirt square there, just at the bottom side of the runway to the right.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Dave.
Anna, please.
So that is not airport land, but everything else around it is. And in the past, it was zoned as residential, part of the community, because that's how everything on the right side of that other road is currently zoned. And it's actually inhibiting their growth. They have people that wanted to develop hangars and expand their apron, and that's right in the prime location for that. And they recently also completed an ALP, and we determined all this through that process. But they talked to the landowner. We had them go get an appraisal first to approach the landowner, and he said, yeah, what are you offering? And they said, well, here's the appraisal. And he said, well, I'll take a check tomorrow. So we said, well, that's not quite how it works, but we'll move your application forward so we can get it handled. And luckily, the county being the owner of that airport, there's no realtor involved, there's no fees, no transfers. The county just handles it on their end. So that's exactly the amount of the appraisal that the seller's looking for.
Yeah, another remote airport that, doesn't have a ton of money is doing really cool things at the airport. They just installed a brand new AWAS that you can actually see the trench for going there down along the runway. So there's a lot of movement going on here. Very, very fun to watch these small airports do these cool projects. Next project is Monta Vista down southern Colorado. We are helping them prep for a much larger pavement maintenance project next year with this project. Again, we're going to go in there and do some large crack repair in preparation for project next year. And this is actually a runway that we have delayed the reconstruction of multiple times. It was actually supposed to be done in 2020, then 2024, then 27, and now it's actually pushed out to 2032. And one of the main reasons of that is it's not just a reconstruction of a runway, it's also widening it from 60 to 75 feet. And so we are trying to make this runway last as long as we can, so we can make sure we are doing the right project when we're actually going to reconstruct it.
So this project is kind of a pre-pavement maintenance project. We're gonna address the bigger cracks on the runway with some mastic. And then next year, we're gonna go in and do a pavement maintenance on the whole runway so that we can keep it band-aided together to the best of our abilities until we redo it. They were, in 2020, Monte Vista they were the driving force behind pushing it back. They didn't have the local funds. If we all would have had a crystal ball, we all would have said keep it, because that's the year that everything was 100% federally funded. So they could have had it with the zero local money, and now we've moved it from 2020 to 2032, I think. So, I mean, but the change in their critical aircraft, which was the result of their master plan, definitely changed the how much this impacted the state and the local and the FAA budget. So we'll see. We were also considering our runway stats, or runway
operations monitoring,
statewide initiative. We may get some data from that may say that the critical aircraft that was in the master plan may not be the one that we need, and we may not have to widen it. So we're hoping that may be something else that we gain out of another statewide initiative. So hopefully we'll keep Monte Vista ready till they need it, till we can do the full reconstruction.
Yeah, and again, it's with a project as large as this, especially with the widening, because you have to move all the lighting, you have to move everything. This is a big dollar amount for not just us, the FAA, but the local commitment at a large number. And so a town like Monte Vista is going to struggle to find kind of that local commitment to make this project happen. So trying to just delay it as long as we can and still have a good product for aircraft to land on. So next project is another very odd one that I can say I've not helped with before in Paonia, or North Fork Valley Airport. This is a $180,000 project for runway erosion drainage repair. So this airport sits somewhat on top of a butte that looks like you're going to land on an aircraft carrier, and it has sharp edges just like an aircraft carrier. This is the east end of the runway, and that is one of the end identifier lights. Or the threshold lights. As you can see, they've had some major erosion to the point where the side of the runway is literally just eroding away. And this isn't the bad spot. This is only a picture I took. There's actually on the other end of the runway, there's an area between runway lights where the conduit is hanging in the air. So they are in the process of trying to build up the sides again so we can make sure that the pavement doesn't start coming off as well. I mean, doing a 50-10 here is dreadful anyway, just because there's really no safety area in any direction. But again, they're going to do what they can to make sure that the runway itself stays as sturdy as possible to try to backfill some of this. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it yet, but they did change their application from a ramp project to this runway erosion drainage repair, as that is by far the highest priority for this airport. So,
Can you take an FAA cert inspector to that airport before they start doing us?
Okay, before they come to you?
Yeah, break them in.
Your airport looks, because everybody talks about like it's landing on an aircraft carrier at your airport. Yeah, this, and both ends of the runway go 150 feet almost straight down. So, but kind of an interesting project at Paonia. We will see kind of what their fix will be going forward.
Judging by that slope, I think that exposed runway like can might be the least of your problems.
Yes, exactly.
Right there.
You hope it holds you, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You didn't have a shovel in the truck to take care of that can?
I didn't have time. I had a shovel probably, but
I thought the state would take care of that.
Every once in a while we'll put a light cap back on, but beyond that we don't do it. Or put out a fire. We've also put out a fire in an airport before. The next airport is Rifle Garfield County Airport. We are helping them with design and construction phase 1 grant. This is another one of those where they need to reconstruct actually their entire runway. So this is over multiple phases with state, local, and federal funds. And so we are helping them really do the design for this huge project, and then also have some additional money in there to try to get at least some money to construction. But again, a very large apron construction project at Rifle.
Just to clarify, it's the apron.
Not the runway.
Yeah, correct.
Oh, yeah.
My heart sunk too. I've been around too long, because I remember when that was.
That runway is really new. Thank you for the apron project. I didn't know that many people knew about how exciting that runway was. But apron project at Rifle. Thank you, Scott. Next one is the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport. And this was our third and final unleaded grant application, and they requested $300,000 to implement an unleaded fuel subsidy program at the airport. They are in the process of utilizing a bill grant to purchase and install an unleaded fuel tank, and then this will be kind of the follow-on to that project of allowing us to participate in the unleaded fuel subsidy, similar to how we are doing it with Centennial Airport as well. So. But yep, this was the third application for that, and then this one was $300,000. Next airport is the Silver West Airport in Westcliff, Colorado. This is one of those, another small airport doing some cool things. They actually have some private development that is helping them install a wildlife fence around the entire airport. And so the airport actually reached out to us to ask if we can help update their automated gates in the process. And so the private entity was willing to kind of throw money and make the rest work as long as they could get the gates updated. And they have 3 sets of gates that are automatic open gates, and we are replacing 2 of them in full. And then we're helping at least make an emergency access for the other gates as it's somewhat it accesses private development that doesn't really put any money into the airport. And so that's where we are very careful looking through this to make sure that we are watching our money and making sure it's public use and make sure it's used in the correct way. So again, kind of a cool airport gate improvement project for $50,000 at Westcliff. Next project is down in Lamar, Colorado at the Southeast Colorado Regional Airport. This one is actually a runway project and runway 1836 and taxiway Alpha pavement maintenance project. They are actually just finishing up a portion of taxiway Alpha, a reconstruction of that. You can kind of see it in this photo, but it's that it's the taxiway Alpha is right adjacent to the concrete runway. But we are helping them do a pavement maintenance project on the concrete runway and the rest of the taxiway. And we're hoping to get the taxiway to the point where we can get it to last long enough. We find out how to rehabilitate it in a better way. And again, this photo actually shows the nice project we did a few years ago or last year of that 608H product on the crosswind. So the crosswind actually looks really good in this photo. But $300,000 projects at Lamar for pavement maintenance. Springfield is the next one. $300,000 to do airfield pavement maintenance again for their runway. This is one of those nice runways that was done along with the state highway along with it at the time. And so we're going to help them continue to maintain that and repaint it. And then also we have grants in place already from past years to rehabilitate their ramp and the taxiway there adjacent. As again, I would not necessarily call them asphalt currently, but hopefully they will be in the near future. So pretty cool project at another small airport in the very southeast corner of the state. And with that pavement maintenance project, we're definitely, no, I mean, not the pavement maintenance project, the ramp and taxiway, we are struggling to find bidders on that project. So that money has been in place for a little while and we're struggling to find people who want to go to that corner of the state for a project of that size. So still working through the logistics of that project. Next is Sterling. A $350,000 project to do pavement maintenance over the entire airfield again. So another great pavement maintenance project in Sterling. Next down the road, with one of our board members may know, Telluride.
There's the other aircraft carrier.
There we go. There's the other one. Your safety areas are a little cleaner, I will agree.
Yes.
But this is a $550,000 grant for airfield pavement maintenance as well. So very similar to the other airports we talked about, just making sure that the airfield services last as long as possible with that project. Next is the Walden-Jackson County Airport. And this is our big project of the year. This is the project we've been planning for multiple years. We have an application for just over $4 million to reconstruct their runway. The hope was we were going to be able to do the runway, we were going to be able to do the taxiway and the ramp and possibly install a turnaround on the northeast side of the runway, the top right corner. But estimates came in at the late hour much higher than we were ready for. So there's a chance that we may only make it to the runway reconstruction of this project. But this is one of those projects we're going to get some money in place, see how the bids go, see what to expect on this, and then we'll be able to make a more informed decision going forward. But again, getting $4 million in place on this will definitely get the runway going, and then we'll see what else we can get done with that funding as well. So again, this is our really big project of the year for an airport kind of in the middle of nowhere, as Kent knows. But
nowhere.
I will say nowhere. Yes, but one of those really important remote airports, especially when it comes to fire response, when it comes to medical. So that's one of the reasons we put this as one of those higher priority airports around, because it is really the only airport up in the area to provide that service. So we are excited to be able to at least plan for this runway reconstruction at the airport.
And I would point out that grant would be notable in that it would be the largest single grant that the division has ever awarded, surpassing Angela's $4 million grant in 2023. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Sorry, Angela, you relegated to second place now.
Oh, I'm thrilled.
So the other cool thing about this project, and luckily it just lined up, there happens to be a couple of asphalt plants in the area too, because CDOT is actually doing the state highway adjacent to it as well. So we are hoping and praying that helps our costs a little bit to be able to kind of not have to ship in some asphalt from the middle of nowhere already. So.
And that's a great point. And we do where we can. We really work with our counterparts at CDOT on the highway side, my counterparts that oversee the different regions, to understand when they're doing projects that we can leverage. We did that in Creed. We timed our grant with Creed when there was highway work going on with whatever that state highway is right next to the airport. So we do try to leverage those economies of scale that come with highway projects in the areas.
So on this, like those airports, you can use the highway spec for the asphalt, and you're not subjected to the FAA spec.
We would be.
That'll save you some.
Saves a lot of money. Creed is great, yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, we're definitely watching it to make sure make sure the base is good. We definitely want these to last as long as we can, not just kind of put on a new Band-Aid on top of it.
No, that's great.
So that's the hope I will say we watch it. We knew it was going to be somewhat timed close, but turned out it timed out perfectly. So yeah, really excited to get that project done. Next project is at the Yampa Valley Regional Airport in Hayden, Colorado. This is a taxiway Bravo improvements project for $1 million. So in the top right of this photo, they actually purchased some additional land up there, relocated a county road around the new land, and there's going to be some very large developments going in on it. But unfortunately, the taxiway Bravo that goes to it is not nearly wide enough or thick enough to be able to maintain or support the equipment that's going to be on top of it. So we are helping them expand and intensify that taxiway Bravo for $1 million from our office. So that is that project. And then our last, we're finally going to make through, is at Yuma. The Yuma Municipal Airport is doing an airfield pavement maintenance project. This one accounts for $75,000. This dollar is quite lower than the other pavement maintenance we showed you, because this is actually an add-on to a previous project that didn't necessarily have enough money in it, and we thought this was the best way to actually get that project funded. Rather than just leave some small pieces of asphalt unmaintained, we were just gonna bring this application to you as well and just make sure we're getting a very good project at Yuma this next year. So $70,000 to fulfill a bigger airfield pavement maintenance project at Yuma. So that sums them up. And again, I've told you guys this is one of my favorite slides to show you. This shows really the statewide impact of all of these grants. Every one of those circles is one of these applications. And then you can see the green circles in the middle are those unleaded fuel grant applications, which is pretty cool. So those three applications for the unleaded program account for $742,700. So we did not use the full $1.5 million that we had protected for it. And so we are going to roll the rest of that funding back into the rest of the CDAC program and spend it in a different way. So again, these 27 applications, based if we have any more questions on them, or plan to be put on the consent agenda for consideration at the January meeting at CAOA. And then in addition to that, the April meeting is our federal match round of applications. We're expecting around another 35 applications there, accounting for another $5.2-ish million to really get up to that $19 million that Bryce has allocated for us. So again, huge impact statewide on this. And again, those will add more circles once we get to the federal match projects. But again, a $13.8 million going to state and local is a really big program that the planners put together on this. And I'd be happy to answer any of the questions you guys have with this program.
Well, I think Kent and I did a good job representing the Western Slope, so thank you.
Good job.
So I have a couple specific questions.
Absolutely.
But first, just a comment to staff. You know, the importance of the diversity of these projects across the state. This map shows that really reflects that the smaller rural airports don't take a backseat to the bigger ones, and it's just, so it's great. And I know that some of that is you guys reaching out saying, hey, did you know we can help, versus, them coming here. So well done on that. My questions are, specifically around the unleaded subsidy side of this. And remind me, and I guess I can't remember, have we, obviously Centennial was the first 3 subsidies. Did we give state money to support that the first year?
Back in June, we did.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I thought. Now we have a second request coming. But I guess my question is, what is the strategy that the airports have, or that we know of, for subsidies? Because, and at what point does it end? Because this is kind of a slippery slope.
It is.
We've already, we're going to add our second airport subsidy for this fuel, but at some point, what is their plan for transitioning the cost of? We know that unleaded is going to be $2+ more expensive per gallon, but we can't subsidize the entire state in unleaded use. Of course, part of this is to motivate people to buy it, because if it's at $2 more a gallon and they have the choice, they're not obviously going to pick it. But I'm concerned about, where do we draw a line to say, and it won't be till 2030 before we see the other go away, and the world will have to pay for that. So I guess my question is, it's maybe more of a comment, and we can follow up and talk about it. But how do we continue to support a subsidy of fuel for the end user when again the rural airports, we want them to go that direction too. So.
Yeah, and Mark, we've had some internal conversations about that, and I wish there was a specific inflection point we could identify when that kind of starts to go away, because you're right, we've had conversations, we can't do that. I think for us, we're looking at things like you had mentioned it during your comments, the Swift 100R, that would be a fleet-wide ASTM approved fuel. Once that becomes widely available and aircraft can use it relatively inexpensively, that's maybe when we start saying, well, we're not going to really do the subsidies anymore. The House bill did not require us to do those subsidies. It just basically said they're eligible. So it's still up to all of you to decide when that would happen. But I think, at some point in the next, 18 to 24 months, when we see more and more of that fuel becoming available, that we start to say, all right, you're kind of on your own. And of course, as more and more of that fuel, I think, becomes available, maybe the price starts to come down a little bit when it's not just one airport, and they take advantage of the transportation cost savings and all those kinds of things. So we're definitely tracking on that as well. I think the other one that we've had conversations about is the unleaded fuel facility. At some point, the airports are going to have the facilities they need, and we're not going to have $1.5 million or 10% to do anything with. At that point, I think we end up going back to some of the key legislators and saying, we're kind of past this transitional period. Let's talk about what the next iteration of all of this looks like for us on that. So we've definitely been thinking.
And a little bit that goes to fuel storage and fuel capacity, because no one has yet declared any of these as a drop-in.
Exactly.
But they have to be a drop-in at some point.
Exactly. And again, I always remind folks, the big challenge we have is that, it's not a challenge, it's the way, you can't use state funding for public infrastructure or private infrastructure. So we're not buying fuel tanks for Signature or, Shelter or these folks. We buy them for the airports. And at some point when the FBOs start to get their own facilities in, there just won't be the demand for those anymore, especially as they transition existing 100 low lead tanks, to that.
That's why I wonder a little bit about Spaceport's design. So what was that, $90,000?
92, yeah.
For it sounded like specifically for unleaded. So that becomes if they put a separate tank in, ultimately then becomes the tank.
Correct.
Are they overcapacitized? And did we pay for an overcapacitization or something that?
Yeah, and we saw it as a slippery slope as well. But one thing we did to somewhat combat that thought process is we reached out to every airport in the state and had them fill out a survey having to do with fuel tank expansion. So what tanks do you have now? Do you have any unused tanks? what is your plan to transition to unleaded fuel? And so that gave us a lot of insights, what airports were looking at. And most, and I would like 95% most, are saying they are waiting for a drop in fuel so they can go from one to the other. And so that's where we knew that this was a direction we could go down somewhat safely and not use all of the money we have to do this. But yeah, we use that data a lot, and we actually forced every airport to fill that out, even to the point of saying that you can't submit a grant application until you fill this out. So it was really important to us to have that data so we can make those informed decisions you're talking about.
And again, for the record, I'm absolutely an advocate of unleaded.
Yes.
But that this transition has to be done in a safe way.
Yep.
That's why I'm concerned, and I express that concern about what's happening in California, because that is right now, potential accident waiting to happen. For us, I don't want us to spend money that doesn't have ongoing value. At the same time, we want to encourage, the adoption of and use of that. The challenge here is that at a national level, the three candidates are still, still unclear and undefined, and the FAA has actually made this challenge a little bit more difficult because their belief is that.
No, I think we've seen it somewhere else.
I got to say that before.
Well, I think the other part of the bill that was really outstanding that we're also going to talk about next year that kicks in for tax year 2025 is, again, Rep. Brown was fantastic in making that bill really incentive based. And, you'll be able at the state level, if you're an aircraft owner in Colorado, to claim half the cost of an STC as a tax deduction up to $500. And so I think that doesn't kick in until this tax year 2025. We're going to be sharing that information with pilots as we go out to events. And, we don't have a dog in that fight. That's Department of Revenue that gets to wrestle with that. But we want to make sure pilots know about that. So when the fuels do come available and they do choose to make that leap, they know, I can save a little bit of money on my taxes by doing that if I'm here in Colorado. Yeah. Sorry, Mike, you're going to have to figure something else out.
Again, one of the things I'm extremely proud of this division and you folks for that Colorado leans over skis out in a number of different things, from the weather cams to what we're talking about and the application. So the things that we do here lead the country. The digital tower, which we're going to talk about, is another great example. Same thing here. We need to take a lead where we can, but at the same time, I don't want us to
not get too far ahead of our skis.
Chase the wrong rabbit down the hole.
And I will point out, again, that's a great opportunity for all of you at CAOA next month, the legislative conference. Rep. Brown was there last year. We've got a lot of new legislators this year. I think a third of them are new, roughly. It's a great opportunity for you all to share that with these legislators, have them do first. That's the best part of that event, is being able to get face to face with those folks as they kick off the session and help them understand what we're doing. And I'll talk a little bit about 1235 implementation later and some updates I've got on that.
All right, well, thank you for letting me vent, but Todd, to the team, you guys did a great job. This is a great list. It's nice to see, the breadth of it spread across the state. So it's something to be very proud of.
Thank you.
Here, here.
Job team, you guys did a great job on this year as always.
Yeah, and it's kudos to the long relationship that you have with all of the airports.
It really is, yeah.
Each one of you has been with the division for X many years, and you have had these relationships with these airports for a very long time. So they're really lucky to have you.
Well said. Okay, let's go to program updates. Patty, education and outreach.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. As you may or may not know, the 2025 Aviation Education Workforce Development Grant application window closes on December 15th. So that's this Sunday at midnight. Not that I'll be up to check whether or not. For then, it will go to a panel, and then we will take those recommendations for CAB consideration at the January meeting at the winter CAOA conference. On the outreach side, I had the opportunity to go to the AOPA High School Aviation STEM Symposium last month in Atlanta. where we got to collaborate with educators to bring and help support secondary aviation programs to their states. I also got to help man a booth for NASAO, which was great because I had my 4 other counterparts at Oklahoma and Minnesota and South Dakota. And Minnesota will actually be in a booth right beside us at Oshkosh, so that's kind of exciting. So we're comparing notes on who's going to have a better booth. Which was really cool is the 2 keynotes were Sean Tucker, world-renowned aerobatic pilot, as well as Second Lieutenant Madison March, and she is the reigning Miss America. She's also the only reigning, any Miss America that is active duty in the Air Force. So that's really cool. Last week, as Mark mentioned, we also were able to take a tour of the Cherry Creek Innovation Campus. Specifically wanted to see their aviation maintenance program. They just fully stood up their Part 147 program, so the power plant side of that. Previously it was just airframe, but they extended it. It is now a 3-year program. So the students typically don't get to go to the campus until their junior year of high school. But what they have done for those who had already started and want to finish out with the power plant side of their A&P can now do a 3-year, so they can extend it out after graduation for another year to get that certification, which is pretty incredible for a high school to have a full Part 147 program. I think it's the only one in the state of Colorado. Ames Community College is also going to stand up a program starting in 2026,
So one of the things we learned, first off, the facility that they have is absolutely spectacular. But Cherry Creek School District got a $60 million bond, and they're going to expand. They're going to put $60 million into expanding. What really will impact mostly will be auto shop in the aviation area. And they say 2 years from now, they're going to stand up on avionics. That's their pathway, so.
Yeah.
So avionics is very much in the future. Worth going to see.
Yes, absolutely. So we can hopefully put together another tour of the CCIC campus with the new board members as well. And then I would like to set up tours for a lot of the innovation campuses up and down the Front Range because they're pretty fantastic. They just opened one, Ranum, which is with Westminster Public Schools. That's it for my report, so.
Great. Thank you, Hetty. Any questions? Okay. Let's go on to the 2025 Aviation Economic Impact Study. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm proud to say that as of this morning, we have reached the pivotal point in this project. Last week, our team and the Kimley Horn team sat down and reviewed a lot of data for every airport in the state, all the input numbers, all the output numbers, and we made some tweaks since last week, but this morning I received a final draft, and with that go-ahead, they'll be able to start populating all the various templates and documents so that we can get this information out in time for CAOA, which is still the plan, and we're still on track to do so. We expect to have every deliverable of the project by then, except the full technical detail report. So with that, stay tuned until next month, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So when you were doing that tweaking, did you tweak Den's numbers up a little bit?
Perfectly fine.
I was going to say, Caitlin spoke for me, they're plenty high.
Any other questions for Scott? Okay. All right. 11.3 NREL's alternatively powered aircraft study.
I'll cover that, Mr. Chair, because Scott is hosting his NASA counterparts and helped them draft that study for us. But great news, they've been at that for a couple of years now, as you know. We, on Monday, got an initial draft of that report that's going to lay out all the things that are in the scope of work. So staff's going to go through that, double check it, and then we're looking forward to sharing the results of that at CAOA in January. But I think, again, what we're taking a look at through that study, just as a matter of refresher, is what all these new alternatively powered aircraft technologies look like: battery electric, hydrogen hybrid, sustainable aviation fuel. What does that mean for our airport system? How can we leverage these new technologies to improve mobility around the state using our existing network of airports? Where might that go? What might that look like? Who might be involved? What are some of the policy implications we need to look at? Like ours, it's funded by fossil fuel taxes. What if Mike starts flying a battery electric powered airplane? How do we get his 6 cents a gallon when he's charging up and not buying fuel? So these are the things that the NREL study is going to help us look at. As we start to socialize this report, it's really the first step in what does the future look like for us. Some of it may happen, some of it may not. Just in the 2 years that they've started, Universal Hydrogen went out of business. They were a company that had converted a Dash 8 to run on hydrogen power. They were very, very at the forefront of all of that. They didn't make it. So what does that kind of thing mean for the future? I can tell you that based on what we've heard through the training and the noise and the issues on the Front Range with how can we help try to incentivize battery electric training aircraft here in the state? You know, right now the technology is not such that the Pipistrel VLIS is going to be used to do your long cross country. It doesn't work. But for 60 minutes, you can burn 10 or 11 touch and goes maybe and learn the basics in the pattern with a quiet airplane that you can switch off in the run-up area, that you can do all of those things that will help not only the student pilot, it will help the local communities with the noise issues and the leaded fuel issues that, of course, you know, have always been a concern. So I think we're really excited about what can we do to help incentivize that. And so we'll look forward to sharing that report with you and everybody else and the legislators in January. So excited that the timing on that worked out. It's a little behind schedule, but we wanted it to be right rather than to be fast. So we're excited. That's it on that, Mr. Chair.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Let's go to Digital Tower.
Okay, we're gonna double team you today. I'm gonna be introducing Rachel Jackson, who's with RTX, and she's going to give an update on what's happening at the tech center with their system. As far as what we've been doing, Dave and I have been meeting more than we want to with our elected representatives. The FAA and its infinite wisdom, Mr. FAA, please, you might not want to listen.
Except for the FAA, yeah.
So the FAA has said we're going to take the stars, the radar display, from FNL. And that's, we have written a couple of different papers on that and have asked our elected officials not to take it. Then the reauthorization bill, section 620, speaks directly to that as far as being able to have federal contract towers have radar displays. There's going to be a couple of different hearings on this, one today and then one tomorrow again. So we're trying to keep that system from going away from FNL, because anybody that's flown up there, I know Mark has, I think, have you flown up there too, Ken? It is quite busy and there's an awful lot of activity there. On another front, the FAA in its infinite wisdom has decided to, well, when something is not working, you have two choices. One, you reorganize, or two, you rename it. So the FAA is now done both. So they're going to have a new AMO, Aviation Modernization Office, which is going to be stood up, I think, after the first of the year. So how that plays into what we're doing, we'll have to find out. So without any further ado, I would like to turn this over to the lovely and talented Rachel Jackson to give us an update on what's going on at the Tech Center.
So, hello, everybody. I am actually at a gate in the airport. So if the background noise becomes too loud, Bill, maybe you can just give the high notes off my chart and I'll answer questions. But we are, as Bill said, we believe, by the way, that with the new organization, the AMO, that the Digital Tower project will get moved over under that organization, because it is designed to take all the existing next-gen capabilities and the existing programs, like programs of record like STARS, et cetera, and put them into one group. So we actually see that as a positive because we believe there may be greater program management rigor applied to our program, but again, we'll see how that goes. We're actively talking to Katrina Hall, who is the deputy vice president currently of programs, and she has been named the chief technical officer, and this group will be under her jurisdiction. So I saw Katrina last night. We're talking to them now about our program and where we are going to potentially need leadership help as we move through the process. But right now, I think I've told everybody who's heard me say this that we're applying the same level of rigor to digital tower that we do to the STARS program. So you will see a chart in front of you that has way more detail than you want, but it is indicative of the way we are managing it. We completed, run for the record, site acceptance test or system acceptance test yesterday at the tech center. So that's a formal collection of tests that we run with the FAA witnessing that essentially get us in and assure that the system is ready to be tested. We're working on training right now, controller training, and there's a number of steps to that have to do with something called course walkthrough. And we're working on the FAA. We're struggling with them a little bit on this, but we're still managing their activities. Is that too loud behind me? Can you hear the announcements? Okay. So testing will start on February the 3rd with brief to the controllers, et cetera, and formal testing will begin February the 10th. There are 6 elements that they call batch testing. So there will be 6 iterations of this testing that will be going through 2025. And as part of that, there are a number of documentation deliverables that we call them that we must deliver. And so 11 are completely approved and accepted. We have 19 in progress, and a lot of which you've got to go through this testing to make modifications or edits to those documents. So you're going to see those slowly checked off as we go through each month. But some of those documents will kind of all come together towards the end. And finally, we are still pushing the FAA on the December 2025 completion date. That is something we'll be working very heavily with the new AMO to talk about what the upcoming schedule is. We are meeting with the FAA in person at the Tech Center in the second week of January to go through a more formal schedule for 2025 and look at all the interdependencies and be sure that all the organizations that we need, such as training and air traffic, et cetera, are involved. So overall, I'm very pleased right now with the progress. We will be probably assuring that in Sean Duffy's confirmation hearing that we will get some questions put in either for the record or asked by some of our friendly members of Congress. And Bill has been unbelievably helpful in assuring that I've given him a lot of data on your tower display situation at Fort Collins. And we're working very closely together on those sorts of activities and coordinating where it's appropriate.
Thank you, Rachel. Questions?
And I'll keep you all in the loop. Bill noted we've been working with Senator Hickenlooper's team and Congressman Lopez's team on a very strongly worded letter to FAA, hopefully from not just those two, but potentially more of our congressional delegation to FAA, encouraging them not only to not take the stars away from FNL, but to actually relocate it into the mobile tower so the controllers can have the advantage of that pretty important tool. So we'll keep you posted on how that goes. I'm optimistic we might get a letter by the end of the week. We'll see how it goes. So we'll keep you posted on that. But thanks to Bill and Rachel for the help in putting that together. So
very good. Thank you, Bill. No, thank you. Okay, how about legislative updates?
Just a couple of really exciting things here, Mr. Chair. On the federal front, the FAA and all of the associated programs are operating under a continuing resolution through the end of the year. So really nothing new relative to appropriations for the reauthorization bill. To Steve's point on PFAS, one of the things that airports have been really clamoring for is the bill provided $70 million a year over 5 years for PFAS transition, mitigation of existing foams. None of that money has been appropriated yet. So I know airports are pushing hard for that. We are too, because that can help take some of the burden off of the state and CDPHE funding some of that. So I know the airport industry has been really, really advocating with folks on that, but we get a new Congress. Nobody's really sure how appropriations are going to go with the new Congress, since they've kicked the can to the new Congress that adjourns next year. So stay tuned on that. I would point out that not only are we, of course, in the SAO members, but we're also federal affairs member of the American Association of Airport Executives. They do amazing things. We get all kinds of intel that regular members don't get because we're those members. So I just sent you one on the hearing this morning. There was a little summary on the hearing that Pete was at. So we'll share all of that with you, and hopefully you're finding value in those. At the state level on 1235, I'm happy to say that we are fully implemented on 1235. Our grant process has been updated. We have checked every box. We are going forward with that. The new board members are going to be appointed, as I said, by the end of the year. Still waiting to hear from CDPHE who they appoint. That's one that the governor doesn't actually appoint from their office. That's one CDPHE gets to pick. So still waiting to hear on that. I'll keep you posted. But we have done all of that. We will be, if we get the grants out the door, we'll be putting some more of that grant information relative to 1235 on our website so folks can see what we're doing and how we're doing that. But again, thanks to the team, we've implemented checklists. We've validated the checklists against the grant applications so that when we are awarding these grants, we have assured that every one of those airports that is subject to the provisions of that bill has proven to us that they've met the requirements of that bill before we hand them a penny. So thanks again to the team for making that happen way ahead of schedule. Todd did a ton of work behind the scenes with WIMS on the software development to make that happen, where now airports can do that as they certify in their grants. So thanks to you for being our WIMS expert. So again, if anybody ever has any questions or airports have any questions about that, we're happy to answer all that, and we'll give an update on all of that at CAOA next month. So that's it on the legislative front.
Thank you, Dave. Should we go to the proposed calendar?
You bet. I think we've covered this pretty good. But, Tuesday, January 28th is our state and local grant hearing. As Todd mentioned, all the grants he just reviewed will be on consent agenda for that meeting. It is at 10 a.m. It is at the Sonesta Denver, downtown Denver. We are hoping that we do not have the blizzard that we had 3 years ago. We hopefully will have good weather for that. And then again, that evening will be the legislative reception also at the Sonesta. So CAO is hosting us for that. And then the next day is the first half day of the conference. We are looking to put together a couple of sidebar meetings at CAOA. One will be with airports that are interested in learning a little bit more about the transition to fluorine-free foams. We've talked with all of you about how we might leverage some of our resources to help airports beyond Denver do that. So we want to talk with some airports about that. And then we have had we've always had a lot of interest in the digital tower program, but we're seeing more interest from other airports in Colorado. We maybe want to put together a working group of other airports, Hayden, Durango, potentially Telluride, some of these other airports that really could work together to solve this issue statewide. So we'll have a conversation with those airports at CAOA too. So that's it for the calendar. Looking way down the road on Wednesday, April 16th, don't know the exact time yet, but plan on our standard annual joint lunch with the Transportation Commission down at CDOT headquarters at noon, with our regular meeting and federal grant hearing to follow shortly after. So we'll get more details on that as we get closer to April, but that is on the books with the TC. That's it on the calendar.
Thank you, Dave. Are there any other matters, members?
I just want to say one thing, Mr. Chair, is update on the availability of sustainable aviation fuel. I just got word from AvFuel that beginning this month, I believe, it will be available at a terminal in Denver. It's basically being piped up from Houston. And so availability will be a little better, because currently like our loads are coming from Northern California, so it seems a little inefficient, so. So to be able to have that means that the scale of production is increasing to be able to do that, so that's exciting news.
How does that affect pricing? Is it going to reduce pricing since it's?
I asked that question. I think it's gonna, in the beginning it won't, but I think the hope is that it'll start to impact pricing and go down a little bit, so, yeah. So that'll be good. And then rail, fuel being transported by rail, they're still working on that to the western slope to Grand Junction. So the hope is that maybe in the next, by midsummer, they'll be taking loads on the western slope and avoiding the mudslides and shutdowns and bridges, those kinds of things.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so that'll keep the prices, it's expensive to do it, but they are trying to utilize the existing infrastructure. So that's all I have.
Great. Anything else? Very good. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're adjourned.
All right.